Hello, hello, hello. Just hopped on, so I'm just gonna wait for a minute for people to hop on. Hello, hello, peoples. I just went live, so I'm just gonna wait until people start to comment, and then I will start to talk. But welcome, 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 welcome. It has definitely been a minute. I am just chilling at home today. It is such a yucky day out. Normally, I'd be out in this, like going for like a walk, a jog, something to stay active. But the way the rain is coming down today, it is not happening. It is way too gross. I do not see comments yet. Are people able to comment? I haven't gone live in forever, so I don't even know if I set it up right. It has been a minute. So say hello so that I know I did it right. Baba Booey, thank you. Hello, my gosh. How are you? All right, awesome. Comments are working. Good. Okay. Like I said, it's been a minute since I've gone live, and I like literally had 1,000 things delay me from going live today. I wanted to go live like earlier, but yeah, you are golden, Baba Booey. Yeah, I wanted to go live earlier, but I had so many things come up, and this is why I haven't been on in a long time because there's just always something happening. I wanted to take a minute and take care of things, take care of myself. Last time I was on a live stream, things got kind of heated, and not gonna lie, you kind of look familiar. Osama. Um, well, I don't know where you've seen me before, Osama. I have gone live before. I If you follow any of the Portland Patriots, you've probably seen me on their live streams before or seen me live before. So that might be why I look familiar. I've been on like um, Mr. Bill's show. I've been on BCP's like once or twice, maybe. But yeah. Hello, Ice Nud. Okay, I don't know that your name. Hello. Hello, Frey. It's a crow. Okay. What's this about? This is basically about why it's been a minute since I've gone live. I'm just kind of giving an update. Anywho, as I was saying, yeah, the last minute I was on a live stream, things got kind of heated, and that wasn't even that live stream that I was on wasn't even intentional. It wasn't planned. It just things just happened in a moment, and yeah, it got crazy. But hey, so ever since then, I decided to take a break. I decided I needed to reevaluate and think about what I'm doing. Um, you know, just remember why I started even going live in the first place. Um, why I even started getting involved, and, just getting back to that, what I was trying to do, you know? Hey, Paul. Um, so yeah, the reason why I even got involved to begin with was because, I would watch Hey, Britt. I would watch all the live streams of things that were happening and conversations that were going on, and, I would just be, like, talking to these people, through my screen, I'm sure you all do that. You all say things that you would say if you were there. So I got tired of doing that. I was like, instead of talking to my screen where no one can hear me, I'm gonna show up and go down there and, like, actually have, you know, conversations with these people because I had a lot to say and, personal experience in the matter, and I wanted my past personal experience to mean something, So I figured if I went down and shared it, then it could make a difference. However, as we saw, not a lot of people are willing to have conversations, and those who were willing, they kind of went away, probably because it was discouraged. Anytime people had conversations, some people on the left would get upset and triggered and would shut it down and cause chaos so that nobody wanted to talk to anybody. It was really crazy, as you all know and have seen. So that was one reason why I started going down there. Another reason was like I just wanted to. Was really excited about a patriot conservative movement happening and wanted to meet like-minded people and also meet other Christians because I was really trying to get closer to Jesus, and I didn't know how to go about it. I thought I knew back then. And everything I did know back then um, has shifted. I only knew what I had been exposed to. Um, it's like Russian roulette. You can be sweet as a strawberry, but some people hate strawberry. Yes. Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah, I was actually just talking about this last night with someone. How um, you know, we're like really bubbly people and just happy, and miserable people hate that. So, yeah, you can be like a really sweet, awesome person, and there are people that are gonna hate you for that, and I've experienced that just even in, like, the work world. I've had people that I've worked with who literally admitted to me, "When I first met you, I didn't like you because you were so, like, bubbly and happy, and we're on drugs." Like, they didn't understand how I could be happy and not be on drugs. So, okay. Weird, right? No strawberry ice cream. Mr. Bill. Hey, Mr. Bill. How are you? No, no, no. This is not about ice cream. Anywho, but yeah, I basically wanted to meet other like-minded people and get closer to Jesus. And it's what and actually it's what ended up happening. It just didn't happen right away. And, I didn't know how it was gonna go. I did meet a lot of like-minded people, and I did get closer to Jesus, over time. I definitely went through some trials. I've definitely learned a lot about myself, about Jesus, about people, and about community. So, yeah, I've definitely accomplished some things there and have made a lot of changes. Um, don't know if you noticed, but this is the first time I've ever been completely without makeup, like without makeup. And I think that's one reason why I haven't gone live in a long time. I stopped wearing makeup. Um, I finally came to the realization that it is not needed, to those who wear it, that I'm not knocking it. I'm not knocking anyone's choice to wear makeup, but I used to not wear makeup, and then literally, I worked with someone like 10 years ago who told me, she was like, "Hey, you would look so pretty if you wore makeup." And I all of a sudden felt self-conscious, and I never thought I needed it. And then she convinced me I did, and I started little by little until I had, like, a whole makeup bag of brushes and all kinds of products to cover my face, and it became a thing, so much so that I used to sell it online. I used to sell Unique, cosmetics, and I used to do, Facebook Lives, demonstrating how to use the cosmetics. That was very nerve-wracking, and I also used to have to drink wine in order to do those lives because I was just very awkward, and I never imagined myself, like, doing lives and talking to people. I'm great at talking to people in person, I have no problem. I can talk to anyone, but going on a live, um, was very awkward for me because, and it still is. It still is awkward because I cannot see anyone's reaction. I have nothing to feed off of, and so I'm literally just talking to a screen and um, reading comments. So, and I don't know how those, the tone of anyone's comments. I'm just guessing. So, yeah, it's different, but and I miss the in-person interaction. But however, I'm just not able to make it out, and I figured this is better, a better way to connect with people than showing up to some events because, um, yeah, a lot of the people at these events don't want to talk, at least not to me. Thank you, Britt. um, So, yeah, I figured this is the best way for me to be able to get my point across, my message, and be able to connect with people, and it's much more calmer. And also I'm just, I've become really busy, with being a mom. I was a mom when I first went out there, but I thought that my home situation well, my home situation seemed different at the time. I did not know how much my teen daughter really needs my attention. I I didn't know because I didn't talk to her about certain topics that I didn't think she knew anything about. And it just really it's caught me off guard, when you hear your daughter um say things that you would hear at a protest, that you would hear from leftist protesters. And that that was hard. That was probably the most triggering thing. Like what people say down at the protest did not trigger me, because it's like whatever. I don't know these people. They're just all saying the same thing, blah blah blah. But when you start to hear your own child say some of the same rhetoric, that's scary. And I'm like, I have 3 more years to correct this before she is an adult and goes out in the world. And I didn't talk to her about a lot certain topics because I wanted her to still be a kid, and I didn't think that she had been influenced by them. I didn't think that she even had an opinion on some things. Thank you, Britt. I it's depending on the day, I feel like I'm doing a good job, and some days I feel like I'm the worst parent in the world, just based on her reaction, um, just based on, just things that does and says. Like, she's not a bad kid. She's made some bad choices, um, like getting emotional. She's made, some bad choices, but by far she is a way better teenager than I was. And I didn't have the internet. So I made really horrible choices as a teenager. And so I'm just trying to fix that and correct that so that she doesn't go down the same path I did and learn the hard way like I did. I spent a lot of years learning the hard way, and I didn't listen to my parents, you know, specifically my stepdad. Um, he was the best influence, and I didn't listen to him. So, oh, Britt. You get what I'm saying, like, for anyone who has children and teenagers, whether you're a single parent or even, married or, you know, co-parenting or living together, whatever your situation is, raising these kids is so, so hard, and, you know, I can tell you from personal experience, it is so important to talk to them because you do not know what information they're being exposed to. You just have no idea until you actually talk to them. It's been shocking to me just to hear my daughter's responses to some things. I'm just like, "Who are you and why? Why do you have this kind of information? Why do you have this opinion? Why do you even, you know, h how did you get this opinion? Like, when I was your age, we didn't talk about that, I didn't have an opinion on this." Or, I didn't have enough knowledge to form an opinion. So it's really, really, really crazy to me that my daughter can have such wild opinions on things that I feel like are adult matters and shouldn't be talked about at her age. Like, I guess she's in high school, and when I was in high school, I felt like I was grown and an adult, and I needed to be treated as such. But I wasn't. I look at her and I just don't see her as the same as the same way that I saw myself when I was her age. And it's so weird. Like, to me, she still is like got a baby face and she's still a kid. And in reality, in 3 years, she's gonna be a full-fledged adult. And, you know, eh, what she's learning now is influencing her and is going to influence the decisions she makes as an adult. And again, she's not a bad kid, um, but some of the choices that she's making, and I've told her this, are, they have a domino effect. Like, I can pinpoint the time in my life as a teenager where things I did that I felt were harmless at the time, you know, spiraled and snowballed into other choices and decisions that I made that just, again, took me down a path that I wish I never had gone down. I wasn't raised um, in a house that encouraged um, us to get close, us to know anything about God, Jesus. It wasn't, that was not my home life. I was actually discouraged. I wasn't allowed to go to church with my friends. I would get invited like youth group or something and I wasn't allowed to go. Um, my stepdad used to tell me that religion was the cause of all wars and conflict, and that it was brainwashing. And I mean, there are some churches that is true, and so I think that he, I haven't talked to him about this recently, but I think that, perhaps it was probably not the best idea for me to attend because the people that were inviting me to youth group, they were not living by the word at all. They were the same people who were going out and partying and, you know, so I think it would have been, uh, more confusing for me. So, I mean, I guess everything happened for a reason, but I still wish that I would have had a different upbringing as a child. I definitely wish that I would have had, you know, a mother who cared like I do. Um, I wasn't blessed with that. My stepdad, he cared so much, but he can only do so much. I mean, he worked full time. He was the main provider of income and he was the disciplinarian and he cooked. Like he did it all pretty much. Um so yeah, and I was very rebellious and didn't want to listen to him. I thought I knew best and I wanted to do things my way. And he used to tell me, he was like, "You are gonna, you're just gonna do things your way. I already know, and you're gonna learn." And he was so, so right. I mean, I went down a path. It could have been worse. I mean, I didn't end up in jail or with a long arrest record or anything like that. Um, but I, I definitely made choices that, made me who I am today. Um, I didn't listen to him about some things, and I, got into a relationship very young, and the guy happened to be illegal, and he got deported when I was pregnant. And then I ended up going to live in Mexico for 9 months after my son was just a month and a half old. So, yeah, I got to experience that. Yeah, he got deported because he broke the law. Well, he broke the law to come in this country, but then he broke the law again. You know, he thought he could get away with things and he got caught. So, yeah, and he missed the birth of our son. I was, in the hospital with my mother, and that was not the ideal situation. And I ended up going and living in Mexico um, with him and his family. And then I was like, I need to come back to America. I couldn't work while I was there. I felt trapped. We didn't have money. Um, we were okay. We got by, but, you know, we were living with his parents. He was not able to get us into our own house. Like there was just there was no room for growth or opportunity there. And so I was like, I can't do this anymore. I I I need to go back to home. So I did. I came back to America and he came back in illegally again, of course. And then we stayed together for like a year. That didn't work out. He got really jealous because I went to work. He could not provide. I was going to stay home with our son, but he kept gambling. So even though he was working two jobs, we didn't have money because he would just gamble it away. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to be poor and not be able to care for my son. So I went and got a job. And then we fought about that. He didn't want me working full time. And I did anyways. And yeah, he tried to tell me he did not give me permission. And I said, well, you're messing with the wrong one. Like, this is America. I'm an American and I'm gonna work. I'm gonna do what I want, you know? I would have gladly stayed home and cared for our son if he could have provided for us, but he couldn't. So I went I went to work and became a single working mom. And that brought on some challenges. He didn't want to help me. In fact, he made it harder for me. He didn't want to give me child support, or he didn't want to ask his family to babysit our son so that I could work and provide for our son since he was not willing to. So, yeah, I I went through a lot with that. And then, I thought I was only going to have one child. That was the plan. Um then I fell in love again with another illegal. I had a thing for Mexican guys at the time. I don't know what to say. I did not learn my lesson the first time. Nothing, not saying anything about being with Mexican guys, but being with people who are not legally here. It was not a good idea. Yeah, so I got pregnant and I was like, we're having this baby, um, whether you like it or not. Even though I did not want to have a baby with him, I, of course, kept my daughter. And yeah, we didn't last very long. We lasted for a couple of years actually after that. Um, but then found out he was a very, very, very bad man who abused my son, and he I got him locked up, and he is serving 25 years in prison, and then he'll get deported. So that is, you know, a big reason why I am against open borders and all for, you know, people who don't belong here, that they have got to go, and that people should enter this country the right way so we know who's who, who's here, what they're about, and can keep track. Because, I got very lucky that I found out and that he didn't find out before I found out, and that the cops, were able to get him in time before he could flee. So, got very lucky there. But however, by 2038, when he gets deported back to Mexico, I don't want him to be able to come back into this country and come after me or anyone else. So that is why uh, those protests really um, just affected me. It just, even though I know that them just standing outside of the building isn't doing anything, but the fact that they're trying to influence other people and that it's just becoming so widespread is upsetting to me, because I feel like people are being very selfish and not thinking about all the possibilities that illegal immigration brings to society. They're just thinking of like, oh, the innocent moms and dads that want to, go to a different country for a better life. And I understand that. That's how I used to feel about it. I used to never have a problem with illegal immigration. I've known many illegal immigrants, and, you know, a lot of them have been lovely people. And, I, love them to this day. However, um, there's also a lot of people that come to this country that do not have good intentions and are not lovely people. And, how do we know? How do we know who's coming in? How do we know why someone's coming in and what they're doing? You know? So it's not to be racist. It's not, like to be discriminatory. It's just for protection. I want I want the, country that I live in to be safe. And I get that there are plenty of American citizens, like, born here that, aren't good people either, but why do we have to possibly add to that? I mean, we are just filling up our population. We're overpopulating this country when we don't have the resources to manage it. We don't have the financial resources in this country to manage that. We don't have the resources with, police to manage this country right now. I mean, look at all these protests that happen where things get out of hand, the police are outnumbered, and how much resources are being pushed to like one event in one area, and what's happening in the rest of the cities when this happens. What happens in the rest of the city? Like, the all the resources are being used for one area at one point in time, that's just a strain, and that's costing our local government lots of money. I mean, how can the police such an overpopulated city when people are being added in at rapid rates that, you know, they don't even know who they are. They can arrest them, but what if they just get released again? I mean, it's just there's a lot to that. And I'm just kind of rambling at that point. Um, but yeah, I mean, that's why I got involved with these protests because I wanted to get through to people. I wanted, people to think about, everything. And my story is not the only story that is like that. I know there's other women with similar stories or worse. There's so many out there and it's just not talked about. They don't, it's not something I have ever talked about on social media before. I never talked about it on Facebook when it happened. If you knew me, you knew it happened to my family, but otherwise, nobody knew, you know? It because when you have a child that has been victimized like that or your family's been victimized like that, you're not jumping on social media to talk about it. You just kinda want it to go away. But unfortunately, that doesn't help anyone. Unfortunately, it doesn't stop it from happening, and even though that man is locked up and serving 25 years, it doesn't it doesn't make it better. It just means like, "Oh, for 25 years, I feel safe from him." That's it. But it still happened. And the repercussions of that, those are ongoing. They're ongoing for my child, they're ongoing for me, you know? But nobody talks about that. Nobody thinks about what happens to those families. I mean, you can do all the counseling in the world. And yes, I lean on Jesus a lot now, but I didn't always. No, before I leaned on alcohol, I leaned on marijuana, and that's not something I ever um admitted before on social media. You had no idea people would have no idea that I used to do that either. I think maybe talked about drinking before because that was always socially acceptable. Um, but I never talked about how I used to partake in marijuana. But yeah, I used to do a lot of things that were bad for me. And I thought they were harmless. And then, I've learned a lot. especially in this past like 6 months, I have learned a whole heck of a lot. And that, if I had known about more about Jesus back then, I probably, I not probably, I could have handled things better. I could have made better choices, better decisions. I was just lost. And, you know, I, I'm sure a lot of people feel that way. I'm sure, I know a lot of people feel lost and you're not sure how to handle things and not sure how to deal with a lot of life situations coming at you. And so turn to some comforts. For some people, it's food. Some people, it's alcohol. Some people, it's, marijuana. Um, Others, it could be sex. You know, Th- there's um, uh, some people, it's attention, um, negative or good. So, I just highly encourage that if you are struggling with any of those things, that you try your hardest to get closer to Jesus and listen to people who are trying to help you do that. Because I've been I had been trying to actually get closer to Jesus for off and on for a few years. When I first started going to church, I I thought I thought I was ready. And I went to this lovely country church and I was going every Sunday and everything was great, I felt like, but um I wasn't really like I don't know how to say, I wasn't really committed. And I didn't know that. I didn't know what it took to become committed. I I just thought showing up on Sunday was enough. And just listening and learning there was enough. And, just be a good person, right? And then the pastor there, um, he did a whole sermon. He decided to preach one day about alcohol and smoking marijuana. And I was offended. I was so offended. I wasn't, I was just like, what? Like, I'm here at church. So, that should be enough. I didn't think I had to, I wasn't drinking, I felt like I wasn't drinking that bad. And I felt like, marijuana wasn't that bad either. Like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? I literally felt singled out and attacked. Like, I didn't know if he knew and if I was the only one in that whole church that was doing those things, but that's what it felt like to me. I felt like I was being called out and I did not want to participate anymore. I yeah, I instead said this isn't for me and, I should have never gotten involved in this and I decided to revert back, you know. Uh, that's happened to you a couple of times, Brett? Yeah. Don't you absolutely love when somebody snickers about you to the pastor and then the whole sermon is about you? Oh, that's I don't even think that anyone knew and told. Like, I did not tell anybody. Like, I literally had kept it a secret, So I was just shocked that that pastor was talking about that, and I did feel singled out, but I mean, maybe he was just led to, and I was supposed to hear it, and I was not ready to hear it. And so, yeah, I rejected it and went, went away from the church and did my thing for a couple years. I Until I got to a point where I felt numb. I felt numb and I didn't feel like I was myself anymore. And I was like, something's wrong. Something, I'm not happy. I thought this was gonna make me happy and I'm not happy. And so then that's when I decided, okay, I need to cut back on drinking. And then it went to I need to quit drinking. And I did that for a while. And then, I went through some things, um, kind of sort of relationship wise, and decided I needed to make changes with that too. I needed to make smarter choices when it came to men. Um, that clearly I was not getting it. So I um I decided I needed something to keep me distracted. And then the Patriot Weekend 2.0 happened, and I had been watching things for a while, and I felt like I needed to be out there. Like, just something was calling to me to go out there, and I never had been out to anything like that before. I'd never been to a protest before. I'd been to some flag waves back in the day, but never, ever in my wildest dreams would I thought I would go to a protest. And I did. And yeah, I really dove into that. And it kept me distracted there for a minute. But I also met a lot of different people. And it took me on different paths. Some more trials came up during that where, just when you tell yourself or you tell God, like, I've learned all the lessons. I know, like, stop bringing me lessons. I've learned. I'm ready. Stop testing me. But he keep, he keeps testing you, and when you keep failing them, then you have to realize, like, okay, I'm not learning it, or I haven't fully got it. I keep thinking, oh, this is different. This one's different. This one's different. And no, it's not different. And I know that sounds really confusing. um, Makes sense in my head because I know what I'm talking about, but I'm just not getting all specific. But yeah, I had to learn and realize that I just need to do it the way that we were meant to. And there's a whole book that tells us how to live our lives and how we should live. And I finally had to realize that that is the way. And before I just believed in God, but I did not believe that all the rules were important. I didn't believe that this is what I'm supposed to do. So, you know, I I had to come to some realizations that if I truly am committed and truly want to be better and to be, you know, Christ-like, then I need to live like that. I need to act like it. So, yeah, I one thing, I stopped wearing makeup and I stopped caring about it, you know, just being natural the way God made me. And, I'm not going to let what one woman told me like 10 years ago change my entire identity. I mean, I it's crazy to me to think that like 10 years ago I didn't wear makeup and then bam, one person literally got in my head. So weird how I got tempted and I went full force. I didn't start off with just a little bit. I was uh crazy beauty standards. And I realized that I I also need to respect the fact that um I should be, I shouldn't be out there like dating. Well, I mean, dating's one thing, but I shouldn't be engaging in behaviors with men before I am married. So that's a new one. I'm gonna tell you, I never lived life like that, obviously. So yeah, I'm 42 years old, and it took me a while to realize that I had been doing it wrong, and I I was kind of shifting this way over time. I was like, "Oh, I'm not gonna live with a guy until I'm engaged." I even failed on that one when I had said it. And then, you know, I said a lot of things, and I kept trying to make up my own rules, and they weren't working. Like, we as human beings, we are flawed, and we get tempted very easily. And, I had to talk with my new pastor and realize what I needed to do in order to not go back to my old ways. Because, I decided to get baptized. I decided to make that level of commitment, which I did not know before that that's what I needed to do. I, had heard some uh, different teachings that told me that it wasn't necessary. So when I learned that that was necessary, you know, I, I took it serious as a commitment. And, you know, it- when you learn new things, um, you want to it's like you want to share it with the world. And, it's just like when when you were a kid in school and you learned something new and you would rush home and you couldn't wait to tell everyone all the new things you learned, right? Well, it's the same thing. It's like how I feel. It's like I've learned new information that I didn't know majority of my life, and I feel like a lot of people don't know either, and I just wanna share it with the world, you know? I just want everyone to know. Like, "Did you know?" Not that "Did you know?" but, you know? Um, yeah. So, in the past, I may have in the recent past, I have been told that I, act holier than thou, and, I act like I'm better than everyone or something, and that's not the case. I'm not better than anyone, and I don't think of myself as better than anyone. Just because I have come to realize some things and I have made choices to live a more godly life does not mean that I'm better than anyone. And that's, I guess that's some people's perception of what I've been doing. And, that's on those people that think that. Like, that's how some people feel. That has nothing I don't feel like that reflects on anything I'm doing. Because my life isn't perfect. I mean, just because I've been baptized and I'm, you know, getting closer to Jesus does not mean my life is perfect at all. I still go through struggles. I struggle with things every day, you know? What's nice about getting closer to Jesus is that, there are guidelines that help you, and if you follow these guidelines, things will be better versus not, you know? And people think that it's just restrictions, harsh restrictions on your life. And it's really not, you know? I mean, of course, it's easier if you do them younger. If that's if you do things the right way the first time, it makes it easier than learning bad habits and then trying to correct them later. That is hard. Trust me, I know, because I never lived like I do today. I never made choices like I do today. I always did what I wanted, thought I was doing the best I could, and never thought I needed Jesus at all. Like, if you would have asked me 10 years ago, I mean, people that knew me back then, they would be shocked to find out that I go to church and that I've been baptized and that I've literally changed my whole point of view and the way I live. I mean, there have been people that have reached out to me recently that known me for a long time, and, I've had to they were, like, try to invite me out to do things that I no longer do, and, I had to update them, and, of course, then you don't hear from those people anymore. They just kind of they're like, "Oh, okay, well, we can't relate to you, so bye." And, it doesn't even hurt. That's the crazy thing is, like, once you know what you should and shouldn't be doing, when you see other people doing it, it's it starts to bug you, you know? Hey, soda bug. Thank you. Yes, I'm glad I found peace too. And, I'm still learning. I'm still learning so many things. There's a lot of things um that are actually in the Bible that are not talked about in a lot of churches, come to find out. I've known people that have grown up in, around learning about God like their whole lives. And there's things that they don't know. It's really crazy to me because and this is one reason why I think I had a hard time with, um, with accepting Jesus because I would see people who claimed to, to follow Jesus, and it just seemed like they were hypocrites and just did what they wanted. Like back in my 20s, I used to feel like that. Like, oh, well, they're not living true to anything. So what's the point? It's just lies, you know? And that does still happen to this day. But then I had to once I learned that no, there are people that do. There are people that truly believe and, follow the Bible. And, I just feel like it's crazy to me that there's so many different opinions when it comes to Jesus because like there's one book and it's all in there. And, I feel like if you're going to be like a follower of Jesus, then you should follow his entire word, not just the parts that sound good, you know? Otherwise, what is the point? I used to think that, oh, well, I don't do some of these, horrible sins. I just do some of these other sins, but they're not as bad. So it's fine. And then I had to learn that sin is sin. It's all the same. Society, we rank it differently, but in the eyes of Jesus, sin is all the same. So that was a harsh one for me to learn, you know? And everyone who thinks that Jesus is just about love, um, harsh truths are love. So you have to redefine what love is. Everyone's definition of what love um, is going to be shaken because, like we say all the time, lies are not love. Truth is, there's so much love in truth. So I just, think people should remember that when they get corrected. I know it sucks to get corrected. I know it sucks to get called out. Absolutely. I've been there, done it. Maybe I didn't get called out on a public scale, you know, maybe it wasn't on a YouTube live or, some X post that I can understand. But however, I mean, however we get called out, just you have to understand that it can be for your benefit. Now, I get there's people that are going to constantly bring up the past. And see, that's where I think that's wrong. You know, you shouldn't keep bringing up someone's past if that's not their present. Because we've all sinned in the past. No matter what point you're at, everyone has sinned. We know this. However, that's not an excuse to continue to sin because once you know that that is wrong and you repent, you're not supposed to do it. You're not supposed to keep doing it. So that's like the difference. I don't feel like people should have their nose rubbed in their past mistakes, unless it's their present mistakes. Unless it's something they keep doing, then obviously they haven't repented. They haven't they're not really sorry. So, you know, and then they would need to be reminded. But, I just bring that up because I've had so many people anytime I comment on a post and mention Jesus, I've had people attack me for it. And they're not even people I know. It's just like complete strangers on the internet. It's so weird. But I mean, it can happen with people you know too, that they, they'll attack you with like, "Oh, like you've never sinned. Oh, like you've never done this." And it's like that's not what I'm saying. We're supposed to learn from it. We're supposed to get better and do better. But if you know something is going against God and then you continue to do it anyways, well, then then what's the point? Like then you're not really, getting closer to Jesus. You're not really, trying to be a child of God, you know? Because if you know that this is that, I mean, basically, if you know that God wants us to obey and to serve him, and you know how you have to do that, and you just keep going against it and just saying, "Oh, I repent," but then you just keep doing it and doing it and doing it, well, then you're not really serving him, you know? It it's not like you can just keep saying like and people use the whole like, "Oh, well, Jesus died on the cross for our sins." Yes, he did. However, that's not a a hall pass to just continue to sin. That just means that we repent, we get baptized, and then we're not supposed to sin anymore. And then if we do, we are supposed to repent, but we're not supposed to continue to do it. Like you were supposed to try your hardest, and everything is a choice, you know? I mean, sure, people do things, they react poorly in a moment sometimes, and there's some that are like are more premeditated. But still, we are supposed to stop and think. And I mean, remember when that saying was, "What would Jesus do?" That was a really popular saying. Like, we need to bring that back. We need to think about what would Jesus want us to do and do that. Yes, none of us are perfect, soda bug. This is so true. None of us are perfect. You know, Jesus showed us the way. You know, he's perfect. And we need to follow that example. That is what we're supposed to do. And yes, I know we we fall short. That is well known. However, we are supposed to really, really try. And that means making different choices than what we're used to making and not just letting society tell us what is okay. Because, I mean, right now, society is telling us that men can become women, women can become men, um, that it's okay to have drag queens in schools, you know, dancing for children. Like, like there's all kinds of things that society is telling us is okay. And society standards is, who know like who decides how that's gonna go? I mean, I wanna know who leads that. Is it like a group of people? I mean, it's just you cannot follow what society says is okay because that changes all the time. Society also says abortion is great, and I used to think that there was nothing wrong with an abortion back when I was young. I had known people who had done it. And yeah, my mind changed. So yeah, I learned the hard way that it's not. So don't that's why we cannot follow society standards. Society is evil in a whole. Society says it's, okay to sleep around. Society says it's okay to kill your baby. Society says um it's fine to, get wasted and act stupid. YOLO, you know? Oh, just having a good time. But what does that really do? All those things do not lead to happiness. All those things do not get you closer to God. So why are we letting society tell us? I mean, we know where to find the answers. We just don't want to listen to them. So, yeah, those are just some things that I've been reflecting on and struggling with and coming to realize. So, yeah, I am actually planning on, you know, going live more often. Um, I want to do it live like once a week and just kind of, checking in, um, just kind of sharing my experience. I do want to go to some events again. It'll just, be not as often, uh, because, I've got a lot on my plate. But I do love going out to events and seeing what's happening and talking to people and just, witnessing what is going on in the community. Because as we know, sitting at home, um, we're not going to find out from like our local news. So, and I like going to events. Just, yeah. Right now I'm needed at home, but I definitely want to like go live, more often and just kind of talk about things. There was one other thing I was going to talk about, but I kind of went on a whole tangent just now. So I'll have to save it for another live. Um, because yeah, I did not expect to talk this long um, about like one thing really. So yeah, and I don't want to be on live for too long, you know. But yeah, I'll just save it for next week. Um, but yeah, I feel like this is a better way to connect with people, and I can get my thoughts out, my point across, and just share what I've learned. And it's okay if people don't like what I have to say. I didn't like what some people had to say when I first heard it. It took a long time for me to reflect on it, but the thing is like things that you hear now, it may upset you today, but a few years from now, they might come back to you and make sense. So that's why at first I was worried about talking about things, but now I realize that, I am supposed to share my experience. I am supposed to share what I've learned and know because it can help someone else, just like other people have helped me. And that's just how you pay it forward. So that's what I plan to do. And hopefully it helps people. And if it upsets people, just think about why it upsets you, I guess. And if people, have something to say or question it, you know, you can comment. I'm not opposed to talking about it. Um, you know, I hope it does bring on more discussion. It'd be cool to have like several people up on here and talking about things, you know? I would love that. I would love to be able to connect with people, and talk about topics. So hopefully that's something we can do. Or you can message me if you have a problem with anything I've said. Um, yeah, but I think that's what's made me nervous about getting on lives is I was worried that what I would have to say was going to upset people. Weird, right? I went to protests where people are saying trans women are men to liberals, and now I'm worried about upsetting people with what I say and think. So yeah, it's it's crazy because yeah, especially when it comes to talking about belief in Jesus. I have found that everyone has a different idea on what that looks like, and people get really offended, even ones that do believe in Jesus, but they were raised with a different belief system within that. And so, yeah, it can be very upsetting to people. And I've seen it personally with some conversations where people get very, very upset when what have believed has been questioned. So, but I used to have um, different ideas and was taught different things when it came to Jesus. So, you know, I I realized that we're all learning and growing, and I just hope that um, people don't get upset at those topics, and try and like have an open mind and open heart, and realize that you know people are doing it out of love, and they just want more people to grow and to do better. So that is my hope. Anyways, thank you all for being on here. Um, and I hope that you like it and share it. Subscribe. I'm doing YouTube and X. I'm trying to, maybe I'll just go to YouTube at some point. But I've started. I I started sharing my thoughts on X more, so that's like where most of my following is. But I want to grow my YouTube, so then I can go live more. And yeah, I really want to connect with people and just share my experience. So, anyways, thank you guys for being on here, and I hope to see you on here again. I will come on here and go live more often, more frequently, and more consistently. That is my goal. So, thank you all. Love you for the support. Until next time, and it will be next weekend. All right. Soda bug, Britt. Just going back and making sure I said hi to everyone. All right, perfect. Anywho, and thank you all for being so respectful. It's hard to share some some of the things I talked about, but I felt like you can't really share your experience without sharing all of it. And these are topics that should be talked about because some of you may um, relate and some of you may not, but at least you can understand where I'm coming from or where many other people are coming from. So that is my hope. Anywho, talk to y'all later. Love y'all. Bye.